at this point, we've done pretty extensive querying coverage for SQL. So you can take pretty much all these skills and move them directly over to MySQL, probably Oracle and some of these other SQL-based databases, and just fly with it, right? So now I've taught you generic SQL stuff. I'm going to move you into Postgres stuff, specifically Postgres stuff. And this is the part that these are the reasons why I chose Postgres to teach you versus MySQL and some of those other ones. So I'm excited. This is like the fun part of Postgres. One of the really cool features of Postgres is it kind of ends up being a multi-paradigm database because it has the ability to do unstructured data within SQL. And it's kind of a fascinating way that they've chosen to do it. You can actually store JSON as a data type in Postgres, and then Postgres knows how to query JSON for you. So you can have this mixed like schema and schemaless data that live side by side in the same thing. So that's the cool thing about this JSON data type is it doesn't have to have a schema. So you can put whatever you want in it. And it kind of allows you to kind of blur that lines between what a document is and what a record is across document and SQL-based databases. This is, as far as I know, very unique to Postgres. I don't think this exists in many SQL types. So one of the, in fact, let's go back over here. If we look at this, you can see we have this rich content table. If I only put 5 records in here, so you can, if you want to look at it, just say select star from rich content. And you'll see here it has a content ID, a comment ID, and has content in it. So the content ID is that it's unique. In fact, let's go back over here. It's a unique primary key. The comment ID refers to a comment. And then the content is a JSON data type, and it's not null. So imagine you're making a message board, and you want to add the ability to embed videos, and embed polls, and embed images. Like you want to have this like rich content experience. The way that you can do that is with this JSON data type, because these things are going to be kind of amorphous, right? So if you look down here, I have several of them out here. This one's going to be a poll, and it's going to have a question, and it's going to have options. Or this one's going to be a video, and it's going to have a URL, and it's going to have the dimension to those videos. So these various different types of rich content are going to have different kind of things that are going to be associated with it. So it's going to have this kind of, it needs a schemaless way of expressing it. Our other option is to have multiple tables. One describes polls, one describes videos, one describes images, and then we're going to have some sort of like connecting table in the middle that's going to be just a comment ID linked to a particular type of other comment or like rich content ID. You can express this in tables, but it gets messy and gross and involves a lot of tables. This is really nice because we can just put everything in the same table and just express it as JSON. So that's kind of the use case for this one, is I have heterogeneous data, is I guess how I would describe that. Like data that should live in the same table. It's of a similar collection variety, but might have different dimensions to it. This is exactly what JSON is made for. So the symbols that you need to get used to are these arrow types. So let's just go ahead and go write one right now. So we're going to say select content, which is the name of the JSON column, right? Content, this one here. But I'm going to put minus, and then I'm going to put angle bracket. Now, my font here puts these down as one glyph, but just know this is actually, it's my font combining them into one glyph, right? This is with the Cascadia code. It's a free font put out by Microsoft. So that's what that arrow means. It just makes it more readable for me. And then I want to select the type here, right? So this is something inside of that JSON object. So I'm going to select type from rich underscore content. And so now this is going to go through each one of these, and it grabs out poll and video and poll image and image, right? Which makes sense if you look up these: poll, video, poll, image, image. And the question mark column there is we didn't give it a name, but we can go in here and say as, you know, content type, right? And now it's actually called content type, it's a little bit more readable, right? This is great. This is really cool. And we're now querying JSON out of Postgres. And another thing that this will do for you, this JSON data type, it will enforce that you're putting in proper JSON. So if you try and feed it like a string of not well-formed JSON, it will rebel and say, no, you won't do this. This must be valid JSON. Let's fathom for a moment that I'm making some sort of like drop-down selector for my rich, you know, experience to create these rich contents. And I want to have a drop-down of all the various different types that I can support. Well, I could do this. This is exactly what I did. But I have image in here twice. I have poll in here twice. It'd be nice if I could just select the distinct ones, right? Well, lo and behold, there's something unsurprisingly called select distinct, like this. Oh, and actually, that's a problem. And I meant to show you that. So what distinct does is like, all right, distill this down to just the ones that are, you know, the same ones. So what we want to get back is poll, video, and image, and we want to leave out the duplicates. So we want to deduplicate this set. It'd be nice if we could do this, but the problem is that the type that you get back here, we assume that this is a string. It looks like a string here. But the problem is it's actually not quite. It's still actually a JSON black box to Postgres. It doesn't know what to do with these. You can see here it says, I don't have an equality operator from type JSON because it doesn't know what it is and it refuses to tell you what it is because it just won't. It doesn't know. It could be something different from every single one. Now, we could do something like this where we say cast type as text, like that. And this will say, hey, Postgres, I'm positive what's coming out of here is text. Use all the text operations here, and that'll end up working, right? And that's what this does. Now it works. Now we're getting distinct. Just so you know, this is the first time I'm showing you distinct, but distinct works everywhere. Select distinct just will deduplicate whatever it returns to you, so you know. This is burdensome, right? This would be nice if we could just get it as text in the first place and we didn't have to do all this casting business. Well, you can. If you put a second angle bracket there, which again, I promise you, this is 3 glyphs together of a minus sign and 2 angle brackets, which my font combines into this pretty arrow. And it's just saying, whatever you select out of this, just cast it as a text immediately. And you can see there, it does actually end up doing that. You can see it even lacks those quotes. Again, this is Postgres saying, I don't know what comes out of JSON. You have to tell me explicitly what is coming out of JSON or I don't know what to do with it. Whereas this one is just saying, I know this is text, cast it as text. Because you have to imagine, well, I mean, let's do this, right? If I select content, if I select dimensions, these ones don't have dimensions. If you go back and look at these up here, images and videos have dimensions, polls do not. So these come back as null and these come back as objects. And this is Postgres just saying, I will give you whatever you ask for, but if you ask me to do comparators and operations and addition and stuff like that, you got to tell me up front, I'm getting a string, I'm getting a number, that kind of stuff.
Why does the output from Postgres say 5 rows? Only 3 were returned. Or do the null values count as rows in this case?
Yeah. So in this particular case, there's these 2 polls don't have heights and widths, but they still get returned because we're not telling it to exclude anything. So it's going to return something from everything, and it just won't return. It'll return null for those ones. So this is a null. So if you wanted to get from rich content where content dimensions, I think you have to do this, is not null. And there you go. So you have to tell us, like, specifically, I don't want any null things back. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Good question. Other questions? Alrighty. Well, you kind of spoiled my next little section there, so thanks for that. Just kidding. That's a good question. But what I want to do right now is I want to go and select all the heights and widths for things that have heights and widths. So what I want to do is I want to say select content. Then I want to select from dimensions, because notice that that's nested, right? And then inside of dimensions, I want to get height. Ooh. Height as height. So notice the first one here, this one, I'm using the single arrow because I still want the JSON object. I still want to do it. I want to access something deeper in it. So I do single arrow here. And then here, I know this is the terminal of this particular JSON tree that I'm traversing. So I'm asking for the height back. This will give me the height back as a string. And I'm using that as height. And we'll do the same thing for width. Oops, I need to do dimensions. Dimensions. Width as width. Okay. From rich underscore content where, and then this is where I'm going to say content is not null. So where content dimensions is not null. And here you can see this will give me back all of the dimensions of my various images and videos that have them, and it's going to exclude all the polls that don't have dimensions associated with them. But I wanted to show you here, this is how you do multi-level, right? Because these things can have multiple layers of depth. They can have arrays. They can have all sorts of stuff as well, and this is how you do that. And what I was originally intending to do was just put in here, well, fine, I can do that. Comment ID. And this will give you back as well the comment ID.